Hello beautiful people, welcome to the channel, The Witchy Goth here, hope you're doing well. Finally I have the time to sit down and record my review of the Nine Inch Nails gig from the 17th of June 2025 at the Co-op Live in Manchester. And they are perhaps one of my favourite bands. I've seen them 3 times now, and yes, I would definitely go and see them again if they do tour. Now the gig itself, I must say I was a little bit disappointed because there was one song that they didn't play, which I know they played both in Dublin and in London, and that was Closer. Now I think the reason for this was because they started a little bit late. There's a DJ called Boys Noise. He was the support act for them. To be honest, not my cup of tea. So he had, like, towards the back of the arena, he had a DJ booth kind of thing where people could stand and watch. Nobody was really interested. Looking at the rest of the audience, they were all just sort of stood talking, waiting for the main act. Now, when I arrived there, I was lucky enough to be seated in the Premier VIP section. I knew where I wanted to sit when I was booking my tickets. And the ticket was the same price as a ticket for another seat not in the Premier VIP section. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get this ticket. What the heck? So that ticket gives you entry through a separate door. Entry is earlier than through the rest of the queues. So you skip the queue. You are guided to where you need to be. Wonderful, wonderful staff at hand that can tell you exactly where you need to go. As you go up the escalator, there is a fantastic it looks almost like a small shopping centre with bars and restaurants, and there's shops where you can buy food and drink and so on, and then they have the merchandise stall as well, hence the t-shirt. So you're away from the crowds and you can sort of relax and chill before the gig. Now, unfortunately, I got there a little late due to traffic on the Woodhead Pass. It's always bad there, but this time it was incredibly bad. Now, Nine Inch Nails were due to start at 8 p.m, but they actually started at about 8:15, 8:30, while we had to listen to this Boys Noise guy doing his thing on the decks. And, you know, I used to DJ. It's not that hard. So for me, I was a little bit, not my cup of tea. Like I say, I felt a little bit cheated. And then because of the fact that Nine Inch Nails came on late, I believe that they missed off a couple of songs from the set list. Who told them to drop Closer? I don't know. Very annoyed about that, because I know that the Dublin and the London gigs both had Closer on their set list. I've read the reviews. But I had read the review of Belfast beforehand, so I sort of knew what to expect. Now, there were 2 stages for Nine Inch Nails. There was a centre stage in the middle of the arena, very small centre stage, and then there was the main stage. And the gig started at the centre stage. It was very intimate and incredibly sort of, not necessarily acoustic, but it was gentle. The songs were performed in their raw form rather than with all the backing music that they normally have. So they started with A Minute to Breathe, which is actually one of my favourite tracks. So I enjoyed that. And then he went on to perform That's What I Get, which again is another one of my favourite tracks. I think I did miss recording one track there, or maybe not. So they then left from the centre stage, which was, as I say, very intimate. And the tour itself, called Peel It Back, to me meant 2 things. First of all, going back in time to the older Nine Inch Nails tracks, but also peeling back the main sort of orchestral noise, synthesizers, and so on from the music to its, like I say, its more raw form. So it was nice to see Trent on stage singing in a slightly different way, with the slower versions of the songs, the more acoustic versions of the songs. Then they went from the middle stage, the centre stage, to the main stage, and they were actually guided through the audience on the way there, which, you know, if it had been me, I probably would have been, Trent. And And there's a part of me that wishes I could have been standing in the audience and close to the stage, because I do believe that that's where you get the most out of a gig, where you get the most enthusiasm, the better atmosphere. But unfortunately, you know, I'm 56 now, and I think, you know what, I want to be comfy. I want to sit down. I don't want to be bashed by people. So I have a seat. And so they walked to the main stage and started with Wish, which is a brilliant track. Really enjoyed that. And it was great to see the whole band playing together. Now, Nine Inch Nails is not actually a band. Nine Inch Nails is Trent Reznor. He basically hires, or, you know, asks other musicians to join him on the tour. So they're perhaps session musicians, except of course for Atticus Ross, who him and Atticus Ross have played many gigs together, and they have written many music scores together as well. Nine Inch Nails have done a lot of soundtracks for a lot of different movies. You may not have even noticed them. They did a track for The Crow. They did a track on the movie Seven, and many other movies. And I sort of, when I've watched movies, I'm like, that's Nine Inch Nails. And then I check, I'm like, ah, yeah, Nine Inch Nails, because I know the music and I know the sound. They then performed March of the Pigs, which, old favourite from the Downward Spiral album. Everybody loved it. Everybody went bonkers. And that's sort of when I wish that I could be in that mosh pit, you know. Then they went on to play Reptile, and then Copy of Her, which is from the album The Slip, one of my favourite Nine Inch Nails albums. And I absolutely loved the way that they sort of presented the song on stage. There were copies of Trent Reznor all over the back of the stage on the screens, and he did all these amazing things with his hands as well. So it was really sort of like a copy of her. And that song speaks to me, because we all tend to be copies of ourselves. We never really are true selves when we are out there in the world. We are always perhaps trying to put on a persona, and perhaps we are trying to emulate somebody else in our life. I remember when I was a kid, I used to pretend that I was an actress and famous, or I was a princess and lived in a castle. You know, I'm sure many of you did as well. He then went on to play Gave Up, followed by Vessel and Branches and Bones and Somewhat Damaged. Now, I enjoyed that. It was quite different to hear him sing that live. And again, this was back at the smaller stage. The one song that I really did enjoy is Heresy, which is the track that goes, God is dead. The lyrics go, God is dead. And I am not a Christian. And, you know, I'm a pagan. And yes, I revere and worship my goddesses and gods, but I also know that they don't exist in this plane. And the whole sort of, to me, the premise of the song is that, you know, Christianity is dead, God is dead, he's not alive, he's not living. And to be frank, you know, Christ died on the cross and then came back to life again and then ascended to heaven. So really, you know, he's dead. But of course, there's a deeper meaning to that song as well, in that perhaps Christianity is not all it's cracked up to be. And many of you who watch my channel may well agree with that. And, you know, Trent is from a very small town, and he wanted to get out of that area. And I understand that, because I know when I was growing up in South Africa, we lived in a smallish town outside of Johannesburg called Benoni. And I never wanted to be there. I wanted to be in a big city. I wanted to be where the lights were shining and bright. He also then went on to do Head Like a Hole, the old favourite from the first album, Pretty Hate Machine. And of course, this was another track where the whole crowd went bonkers. And everybody was singing, everybody was shouting. If you watch the videos, I'm going to link all of them into the description box below. Have a watch of them. Let me know what you think. You know, you'll hear me sing on some of them as well. And the ladies, there was a lady next to me, and there was another gent on this side and his girlfriend. And they also did Perfect Drug. And when that song started, this lady on the left, she was like, ah, ah, ah. I can't believe it. As I would have been like that if they'd have played closer. So I get it. I get it when they play your favourite song. And as I say, I was really, really, really mardy that they didn't play closer. And they finished, of course, with Hurt. I think that it was the perfect song to end with because I was hurt that they hadn't played closer. But also, it's possibly one of their more well-known tracks because Johnny Cash covered it. And a lot of people have said, well, it was his song. I still feel that Nine Inch Nails' version is better because, you know, Trent Reznor says, I wear this crown of shit. Whereas Johnny Cash says, I wear this crown of thorns. And to me, you know, not being Christian, I feel that Reznor wrote that deliberately to sort of say, look, you know, Christianity's not all it's cracked up to be. I've never found anything about what his beliefs are or on Christianity or any other faith. But at the time that those songs came out, anarchy was really big. You know, he's possibly an atheist. And so for me, Hurt holds a big message. I will let you down. I will make you hurt. And I do think that it may well be a reflection of who he is in life. Many of us who have been through abusive relationships tend to think that we were the abuser and that we were the one that let another person down and that we were the one that hurt another person. Meanwhile, we weren't. And don't forget that Trent Reznor was addicted to substances and alcohol, did go to rehab and came out a changed person. However, the music was still the same. In other words, he didn't lose the edge that he always had at the beginning. And now he's buff. So he was this skinny rake when he was younger, and now he's quite buff and muscular. And his presence on stage is just amazing. He doesn't speak. Through the gig, he doesn't speak. He does when he introduces the band, and that is the only time that he really speaks. He says thank you. And he also mentions the fact that all craziness going on in the world at the moment, of course, this was before what happened yesterday when, you know, Donald Trump decided to use weapons. And, you know, he mentions that, and he mentions that it's still great that he is able to perform and that people will still go and see him. And don't forget, Manchester was the place where there was an attack at the Ariana Grande gig a few years ago. And I actually thought about that as I was sat there before the gig started. But what they were doing as you went in, they were searching your bags if you were a woman. I always take a little tiny bag with me that fits my keys, my phone, my selfie stick, and tissues, my inhaler, a bit of money and my card, and lipstick. That's pretty much all I take with me when I go to gigs. I leave my big handbag at home. And they search the bag and then they wave the wand all over you to make sure that you've got no weapons with you. I mean, I was pretty much wearing a t-shirt anyway and some black leggings, so could really see that I had nothing with me. But I felt safer that they had done that they had, you stepped through the thing as well that bleeps when you've got something. So I really did feel a lot safer, sat there thinking, if the worst does happen, how would I get out? Anyway, so just to let you know that they have upped the protection and the safety as far as going into these big gigs go. But I loved to watch the crowd bounce around, and the entire audience sang Hurt. And it was, that gives me goosebumps, makes the hair stand on end. But it would have been better if they'd have played closer. So, Mr. Reznor, next time you have to drop any tracks from your set list because of a late start, don't make it closer. Let me know what you think, guys. Let me know what you think of the other videos that I'm going to link into the description box below. What's your favourite band? What's your favourite genre of music? I'd love to know. And, you know, if I don't know the band, I might just say to you, okay, I'll have a listen to it and see what I think. Hope to see you next time. Please remember to like and share and subscribe if you can. Hope to see you next time. Blessed be.